Namaste nerds, Navanad, Budget Pub Stomper. Today we're going to be talking about Marneus Calgar. Now this is a deck that somebody specifically requested, and it's a deck I just happened to be tooling with at the time that it was requested. And now today I was watching CDH Top 16 report, and it seems like Marneus Calgar is also making a pretty big splash in the CDH scene. I mean, it's been a fringe deck for a really long time, but apparently it's actually starting to put up pretty good numbers. But all of those things are kind of culminating and making it seem like good timing to me to talk about this deck that I actually really enjoy, the CDH version of it. And I think it's a really powerful budget competitive deck. So this is clocking in at $96.46. Now this is a hard control deck, just through and through. And it's a very layered combo deck. So, well, first let's talk about what Marneus does or is. So this is an Esper commander. It's 5 mana, Esper and 2, for a 3/5 double strike with 2 of these quasi-keyword, not keyword abilities, Master Tactician and Chapter Master. Master Tactician says whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. And then this Chapter Master is 6 mana, create 2 2/2 warrior tokens, and draw a card. Well, it doesn't say draw a card, but the 2 abilities work together. So the 6 mana ability is create 2 2/2 warrior creature tokens with vigilance. But when you do that, it's going to trigger the top ability. Because you have tokens ETB, you're going to draw a card. So basically it's going to say like 6 mana, create 2 tokens, and draw a card. So if you're familiar with my channel, or I would just say if you kind of know anything about CDH or budget competitive, if you've been paying attention, you'll know that probably a good way to determine whether the commander you're looking at is competitively viable or not, or whether it might be, is it's going to check one of a few boxes. And probably chief amongst those boxes are going to be combo piece, value engine. There's other things, but this commander is it's going to check at least those 2 boxes. It's a very good value engine. It's a little pricey, but the meta's slowed down. Budget competitive play isn't that fast. We're playing a very powerful control suite. We've got a really good control shell that's going to slow the game down. So we're going to easily be able to use this commander as a value engine. But it's also going to be a combo piece, which we'll get into as we talk about the main win lines in the deck. And there's kind of a lot of them. One of the neat things about this deck, actually, what I like about it, and I have had to put a lot of work in to get this to be the case, but it manages to kind of jam all of the things that you'd want in the deck. It doesn't feel like it's lacking for space, and I even came in a little bit under budget. It's got this powerful control suite. We've got a couple of board wipes, and we've got bounce spells and removal, really good removal, and really good counter spells. We've got, Dovin's Veto, Offer, Arcane Denial, all of the best ones, Path to Exile, Vanishing Verse. We've got all the classics, or at least the lion's share of them. And we've got all these layered combos. And we've got plenty of tutors. And we've got all kinds of value pieces that synergize with the commander. So the deck feels like it's got more slots than it has. And I guess that's because we're using different slots as multiple roles, and we're kind of weaving our combos into each other. So let's talk about some of the combos. Where should we start? Let's start with the Valley Floodcaller Alliance. So Valley Floodcaller is just a very good piece all on its own. There's CDH decks that use this, lots of them, that play this card just to play the card, that are not using it as a combo. So it's like got really high card quality, but it also combos with other cards that also have really good card quality. Now there are some ways that we can use the Floodcaller to combo off without the commander, or without the kind of most obvious win line. But I want to just give you first the simplest maybe not the simplest to set up, but like the easiest to understand version of the combo. And it's going to look something like this. You'll have your commander out. Now there's ways to do this combo that don't require your commander, but in this very basic case, if we have our commander in play and we've got Valley Floodcaller in hand, we wait until the end step before the last end step before we untap, and we flash Valley Floodcaller into play so that we can go to our turn and untap and have access to all of our mana. So end of turn, flash in Valley Floodcaller. We go to our turn, and let's say we've got there's different ways to set this up, but just for instance, we've got Soul Ring in play, and we have one of our 0 mana spells in hand. Let's say we've got Mishra's Bauble in hand. Okay, so we are going to tap the Soul Ring for 2 colorless mana. And then we're going to and we have to have Banishing Knack, obviously. I'm sorry. There's 2 in this kind of it's like an A plus B combo with some setup required. But there's lots of pieces that you can use. You don't need any 1 or 2 specific pieces. But again, just in the base case, the A plus B is going to be Valley Floodcaller plus either of Retraction Helix or Banishing Knack. And then you're going to have a way to go at least mana neutral or mana positive, depending on what we're trying to accomplish. So in this case, we're trying to use Chapter Master 6 mana ability to create infinite 2/2 creatures and draw all of the cards in our deck, or as many cards as we want to. So in this case, we're going to need to generate mana. So we've got Valley Floodcaller, which says we can cast things as flash, but also it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you untap, in this case, the only thing that really matters, you untap otters, and it's an otter. So every time you cast a non-creature spell, you're going to untap the Valley Floodcaller. Okay, so now let's look at our B's to our A. Banishing Knack and Retraction Helix are identical cards. They're just the same card with a different name. They say for 1 blue, instant speed until end of turn, target creature gains tap, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So the Valley Floodcaller is in play. We've got a Soul Ring in play. We've got a 0 mana thing in hand, say Mishra's Bauble. We've got Retraction Helix. So we're going to cast the Retraction Helix targeting the Valley Floodcaller. Now our Valley Floodcaller has the ability to tap and bounce a thing, right? So, again, Retraction Helix says until end of turn, target creature has tap, return target non-land permanent to owner's hand. And Valley Floodcaller says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you're going to untap the Valley Floodcaller. So when we give the Valley Floodcaller the ability to tap to bounce a thing, if the thing that we bounce is going to be mana neutral, then we can keep doing it. So we've got, and if it's mana positive, then we can go, we can net mana. So we've got our Mishra's Bauble in hand, we've got our Soul Ring in play, and we've put Retraction Helix or Banishing Knack on the Valley Floodcaller. We are going to tap the Soul Ring for 2 mana. We're going to cast the Mishra's Bauble. Mishra's Bauble is going to trigger the Valley Floodcaller because Valley Floodcaller is going to see you cast a non-creature spell, and so you're going to untap all of your otters, which he's an otter. So we're going to untap him. Then we're going to tap it to bounce the Soul Ring back to our hand. Okay, now we've got 2 colorless mana floating from the Soul Ring. So now we're going to use one of those mana to cast the Soul Ring. And when we cast the Soul Ring, the Valley Floodcaller is gonna see that we're casting a non-creature spell, and it's gonna untap it. So then we're gonna tap the Soul Ring for mana, and we're going to tap the Valley Floodcaller to bounce the Soul Ring, and then we're going to use the floating mana to cast the Soul Ring, so on and so forth. So this isn't like I was kind of getting confused. This isn't actually like the some of the other loops that you might do with Hullbreaker Horror, for instance. We're not actually having to bounce 2 things back and forth. We need one thing to start the loop off, but I guess it wouldn't have to be 0 mana. So what I'm saying is just the Soul Ring would be enough. We don't really necessarily need the Mishra's Bauble. We just need a thing to cast to start the loop up. So we've got Soul Ring in play. We cast a spell. We've got the Valley Floodcaller. We've got the Banishing Knack targeted the Valley Floodcaller. So every time we cast the Soul Ring, it's going to untap the Valley Floodcaller. That's going to give us the ability to tap the Valley Floodcaller to bounce the Soul Ring back to our hand. And then we can cast it again, which is going to untap the Valley Floodcaller. We're going to tap it for we're going to tap the Soul Ring for mana. We're going to tap the Floodcaller to bounce the Soul Ring. So we go infinite mana that way. And when we go infinite mana that way, we're going to be able to pay infinite mana into this 6 mana ability to create an army and to draw our deck. Now, one of the ways that we can finish the game, like actually just kill everybody on the spot, is going to be to do this all at the end of somebody's turn before we untap. With the Valley Floodcaller, we can do that because we can cast our Soul Ring at instant speed. Then when we go to our turn, we can just murder everybody with our army of 2/2 warriors. Or there is one Time Walk or Time Warp effect in the deck. We've got, pretty sure. So if we just happen to be doing this all, like maybe we just drew the Soul Ring on our turn, and we don't particularly want to pass the turn and have to go around the table, we can make our infinite army, start drawing our deck, and then when we come to our Temporal Trespass, we can hopefully well, I guess if you have infinite mana, it doesn't much matter how much mana this costs, but just for overall playability, the fact that you can play this for just blue, and delve in a deck loaded with interaction and cantrips and wheels, it makes it a good playable Magic card. But for this exact line, it doesn't much matter. We go infinite mana, we draw all the cards we want. We're going to draw this because we're going to draw our deck, and it's in our deck. And then we're going to cast this, take an extra turn, so that way all of our 2/2 warrior tokens will no longer have summoning sickness, and we can murder everybody on the spot. And now there's variations of that combo in the deck. For instance, we can have something that's going to pay off. Let's say we've Forensic Gadgeteer can be in play, and we can do kind of the same thing. But let's say instead of the Soul Ring, we've got let's say we do have just the Mishra's Bauble. So we've got our Retraction Helix or our Banishing Knack combo with the Valley Floodcaller, but we can't make any mana off of it because we can't tap the Mishra's Bauble for mana. Or this could be Tormod's Crypt or a number of other things. It can be Basalt Monolith that we can tap for 3 and then cast it for 3 and tap it for 3 and cast it for 3. But if we have Forensic Gadgeteer in play, while we're just, for instance, using the Valley Floodcaller Banishing Knack combo to bounce the Mishra's Bauble over and over, if we have the Forensic Gadgeteer, it says whenever an artifact spell, whenever you cast an artifact spell, you investigate. So you're going to create a clue token. So that's going to give you infinite clue tokens, and this Forensic Gadgeteer makes your clue tokens cost 1 less to activate. So you can draw for 1 mana instead of 2, which makes them a hell of a lot more useful. Sorry, I had a little dogs losing their minds situation to take care of there. Right, so with this version of the Valley Floodcaller loop combo, the Forensic Gadgeteer is going to give you infinite tokens, infinite clue tokens. That's what the investigatability means. Now that may not sound all that great, but remember, again, if you have your Marneus Calgar in play, that also means you've just drawn your entire deck. So it's kind of a way to use the combo and make it effective without having to have exactly Soul Ring. That's what it really is. But it's not just that. The Forensic Gadgeteer also combos with the Basalt Monolith. So the Basalt Monolith ends up being a mana neutral thing that you can bounce with the Valley Floodcaller combo, which is useful. We've got a number of those. We've got mana positive and mana neutral things: Paradise Mantle, Basalt Monolith, Mishra's Bauble, Tormod's Crypt, I don't remember which ones I've said, but lots of 0, effectively free things. So Basalt Monolith can work in that loop, but also Basalt Monolith with the Forensic Gadgeteer just goes infinite by itself. This combo, so you don't need 3 pieces, you just need some of these pieces to work together. Forensic Gadgeteer says that activated abilities of artifacts cost 1 less to activate. Basalt Monolith has, aside from the tap to add 3 mana, it has an ability, pay 3 mana to untap the Basalt Monolith. Well, if you reduce that ability by 1, which again is what the Forensic Gadgeteer does, well, now the Basalt Monolith is going to tap for 3 mana, and it will cost you 2 of that 3 mana to untap it. Then you can tap it for 3, untap it for 2, netting 1 mana every iteration, and so you go infinite mana there, and you can pump that infinite mana into your Marneus Calgar. Or if you happen to have at some point made infinite clue tokens, I guess you can use the infinite mana to crack the infinite clue tokens and draw your deck that way without the commander. So that's a couple of the win lines. You've got some quasi combos that are like basically win the game combos that don't exactly perfectly win the game. I'm referring to like Notion Wheel. We've got Narset and Notion Thief, as say one of these can be the A, and then Windfall and Whispering Madness, either of these can be the B. So the best case would be exactly Notion Thief plus Windfall. Let's just say every player has 5 cards in hand, or just the person with the most cards in hand has 5 cards in hand. You flash Notion Thief in right before your turn. You go to your turn and cast a Windfall for 3 mana. Everybody discards their... normally, Windfall says each player discards their hand and draws equal to the greatest number of cards discarded that way. So whoever had the highest number of cards in hand, everybody draws that many. But Notion Thief says, nope, I got a better idea. How about instead of all of you drawing cards, you don't draw them and I draw those instead. So in that case, you would... all of your opponents would go hellbent. They would throw their hands away, not draw any cards. You would draw those 20 cards. So that's effectively winning the game. I mean, you could have a board state where maybe everybody doesn't scoop on the spot, but you may not have a board state where everybody doesn't scoop on the spot. Pretty difficult to lose after you draw 20 cards and cause all of your opponents to discard all of their cards. So that's like a quasi combo, a quasi A plus B, also with just, playable cards. Again, the card quality is pretty high in these combos. I mean, Banishing Knack is just a decent bounce spell. If you've got a creature in play that's not summoning sick, you can just use this as a 1 mana bounce target thing spell. It's a little bit higher risk because you can get blown out if you go to bounce your opponent's thing. They can... swords your creature in response, and you kind of get 2 for 1. But there's even ways to work around that. If there's somebody about to win the game with their Magda combo, and you need to bounce the Magda, you can actually cast the Banishing Knack on someone else's creature and kind of force them to do it for you. That way, instead of you getting blown out or 2 for 1, kind of worst case scenario, you lose your bounce spell, but somebody else's creature gets killed instead of yours. So it's a totally serviceable piece at the least. And there's redundancy, right? There's 2 versions of the same exact effect. The other main combo that's just going to be a end the game on the spot situation is Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal. Now, our commander is an outlet, but there are other outlets in the deck too. So the deck is able to be, like I said, a little bit more commander agnostic than maybe it would appear at a glance. So if you're not familiar, I mean, you probably are, but if you're not familiar with the Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal combo, let's just look at the pieces. Isochron Scepter for 2 mana. It's an artifact that allows you to imprint an instant with mana value 2 or less when you cast this. Not when you cast it, when it enters the battlefield, you imprint. So you don't get 2 for 1 if this gets counterspelled. If I go to cast my Isochron Scepter, I get to wait until it resolves before I decide whether or not to put a spell to imprint a spell on it. And even if you don't have the combo of dramatic reversal with it, just having a Swords to Plowshares or a Dovin's Veto or an Offer You Can't Refuse on an Isochron Scepter and being able to use that every turn is fine. It's not bad. But if you get the dramatic reversal, and let's just keep with the mana rock we've been talking about. Let's say we've got Basalt Monolith in play, and it stands alone. If that's the only rock you have, IsoRev works perfectly. A lot of times you're going to need to have a number of mana rocks in play, but you need to have 3 mana's worth of permanents, right? You have to have permanents that produce at least 3 mana in order for the dramatic reversal Isochron Scepter line to go infinite mana. Now, to go infinite spell casts, you don't need that. You just need 2 mana. But Basalt Monolith plus Isochron Scepter, and the Isochron Scepter imprints dramatic reversal, that's infinite mana, which you're able to feed into your commander. And again, your commander being an outlet for infinite mana, that means you win the game. So dramatic reversal just says for 2 mana, untap all non-land permanents you control. If you put that on the Isochron Scepter, and you pay 2 mana, so you tap the Basalt Monolith, so you've got 3 mana. You use 2 of that mana to activate your Isochron Scepter to make a copy of dramatic reversal. It's going to untap all of your permanents, including the Basalt Monolith, obviously, but also including the Isochron Scepter. And so you do this the first time, and you've got 1 mana floating, and your Basalt Monolith and your Isochron Scepter are untapped. So you tap the Basalt Monolith for 3, spend 2 of that mana to activate the Isochron Scepter. The Isochron Scepter is going to cast a copy of the imprinted dramatic reversal and untap the Isochron Scepter and the Basalt Monolith, and you can do that again and again and again, making infinite mana, which you will put into the bottom ability on Marneus Calgar, which will allow you to make this huge army and draw your entire deck. So you make basically infinite mana, draw your deck, and virtually infinite, not truly infinite. If you have 80 cards left, you can make 160 2/2 creatures, 2/2 Astartes warriors. And there's other pieces that kind of make all of these combos work a little better, or give you other ways to make them work. For instance, we have Paradise Mantle, which if we put the Paradise Mantle, this might get a little complicated. So let's just stick with Basalt Monolith. We've got Basalt Monolith in play, and now we've got Paradise Mantle. So Paradise Mantle can just be the 0 mana thing you need, the 0 mana artifact you need, with the Valley Flood Caller to, I don't know, make infinite clue tokens with your Forensic Gadgeteer. So if you've got Valley Flood Caller and you've got the Retraction Helix, and you've got your Forensic Gadgeteer in play, then your Paradise Mantle can get bounced up and down for 0 mana, making infinite clues, which will each clue is a token that enters the battlefield, which is going to trigger your Marneus Calgar to draw a card, so you'll draw your deck that way. But here I'm saying, even if we, if we need to make infinite mana, this can give us another way to make infinite mana with the Valley Flood Caller line. So we put the, how is it called? The Paradise Mantle. We equip the Paradise Mantle to the Valley Flood Caller. And now we can use Basalt Monolith or Mishra's Bauble. These are just 2 that we've been talking about. So let's say you've got the Paradise Mantle equipped to your Valley Flood Caller. Basically, Paradise Mantle turns whatever creature you equip it to into a Birds of Paradise, where you can tap it for a mana. So now, if your Valley Flood Caller taps for a mana, and you've got the Banishing Gnat cast on it for the turn, or the Retraction Helix, and you've got a mana neutral spell, Mishra's Bauble, Basalt Monolith, Tormod's Crypt, then you can cast the Tormod's Crypt. Well, we'll stick with the Mishra's Bauble. You'll cast the Mishra's Bauble, and you'll tap your Valley Floodcaller for a mana. And when the no, that's not gonna work. Nope, that's not quite right. So if you can use it. You can still use the 0 mana spell to trigger the Valley Floodcaller over and over, or you could use you could put the Paradise Mantle on the Valley Floodcaller to create another colored mana source if you're going through your dramatic reversal thing. But I'm just thinking better about it now. You actually can't tap the Otter for mana and tap it to cast or to do the bounce effect from Retraction Helix. But you get the idea. They layer together. They work together. They work kind of in tandem. And I mean, it does have synergy. It's not like it just doesn't work at all. It just doesn't work in that exact context I was trying to explain. But still, if you have a Valley Floodcaller that has a I can never remember the name of this card, Paradise Mantle on it, then you can tap the Paradise Mantle for mana, and then every time you cast a spell, it's going to untap your Valley Floodcaller, which will allow you to tap it for more mana. So it's a good synergy, and it is a mana neutral artifact that you can cast, and it's another way to just increase the total number of ways that you have to make mana for your Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal. It's another artifact you can cast to get a trigger for your Forensic Gadgeteer. It's another 0 mana thing, which matters a good bit when you're wheeling and you're trying to trigger things like Lotho. So let's talk a little bit then. So those are basically the combos in the deck, the main combos. And then you've got kind of iterations on them. But let's talk a little bit about the value pieces that we're playing to sort of turbocharge Marneus Calgar and turn it into a really good value engine, aside from just being an infinite mana outlet. Now, you always just have this tap 6 mana, create 2 tokens, draw a card, mana sink, which is really good to have in a control deck. This is a deck that's planning on, like when you sit down with Marneus Calgar, you want to tell the table to pack a lunch. It's going to be a minute. You're not trying to go off and win the game on turn 4 or 5. We're going to drag this into the long game. We're looking to have a grindy war of attrition that our opponents are unlikely to come out ahead of. So with our in-step, tap 6 mana, create 2 tokens, draw a card, that's a plenty useful ability when you're trying to kind of wipe the board with your is it Damnation? Is that the name of the with your dam? When you're trying to wipe the board and bounce people's stuff and blow things up and counterspell all the things, having this mana sink is pretty useful. But we don't necessarily need to rely on the mana sink. We've got perfectly playable, serviceable cards in the deck that create tokens just on their own. Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff, for instance, I mean, this is maybe the best token creator in the deck. So if you've got Marneus in play and you've got Lotho in play, and Lotho is a CDH viable, competitive, really staple at this point. So it's a really good card by itself, and especially in a deck where you're running your preordains and your considers, where you're able to opt and drop a Tormod's Crypt and a Mishra's Bauble, and you're able to play a lot of things, right? So every time Lotho sees any player, including you, cast their second spell in a single turn, you create a treasure token. So if you've got Lotho out, every time let's say you've got your commander in play, you cast Lotho, and then you cast a Mishra's Bauble, or Tormod's Crypt, or Paradise Mantle, then Lotho's going to see that as the second spell that you cast this turn, and it's going to create a treasure token. Well, Marneus Calgar is going to see that a token entered the battlefield, and you're going to draw a card off of that. or if you had your Forensic Gadgeteer out and you cast the any of these baubles or signets or whatever, then the Forensic Gadgeteer is going to see that you cast an artifact spell, and you're going to investigate. That's going to make a clue. Marneus is going to see the clue come into play, and it's going to proc, and you're going to draw a card. Fairy Artisans. This guy's down to 83 cents. Funny, I bought one of these for like $15 years ago. I thought it was on the reserved list. Turns out it's not. Haha. So this is a 2/2 flying fairy artificer that says whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, create a token that's a copy of that creature except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Then you exile whatever the other token you had. If you had another token creature that you made with the fairy artisans, basically you only get one at a time. So somebody casts their, doesn't matter, their Eternal Witness. Then you get a copy of the Eternal Witness. So you get the ETB of their creature. So you've got your Eternal Witness copy in play. Well, the Marneus Calgar sees a token, and so it procs, and you draw a card off of that. So every time somebody casts their Grand Abolisher, well, now you've got a Grand Abolisher. But not only do you have a Grand Abolisher, but you just made a token. Marneus sees that you made a token. Marneus triggers, and you draw a card off of it. Other ways to make tokens. Monastery Mentor might be the best way in the deck to do this. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, period. And I mean, this, how many do we have? Like 25 instants, 8 sorceries, 19 artifacts, and an enchantment. All of those will trigger Monastery Mentor. So every time you cast a spell that's not a creature, it's going to make a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess. You can get in and beat the hell out of people with this deck. By the way, you're controlling the board, you're controlling the game, you're slowing everybody down, stopping their win attempts, and all the while you're just kind of incidentally creating a huge army of 2/2 Astarte tokens and 1/1 monk creature tokens that have prowess. And you've got a deck that can really abuse prowess. You can cast a lot of spells, pump those dogs up, turn them sideways, and murder people. So these are kind of the main ideas of the deck, I guess I'd say it that way. We've got a really good tutor suite. Our Dimir Infiltrator transmutes to any 2-cost thing. That can be our Lotho if we need an engine. We've got our commander in play. We need a mana engine. We transmute Dimir Infiltrator, get our Lotho online. Now we're making mana and drawing cards. Usually, well, I would say just about always, in a competitive game, whatever you're doing, you are going to have a bottleneck that's either card draw or mana. And if you don't have a bottleneck of mana and you don't have a bottleneck of card draw, in other words, if you have all the mana you need and all the cards that you need, well, you've entered, there is no spoon territory. That's what I like to call it. You're Neo in the Matrix. You can do whatever you want. If you're not bottlenecked on mana and you're not bottlenecked on cards, then you've just got everything you need to take control of a game. This deck has no lack of win conditions, no lack of value engines, no lack of interaction. It's got the tutors, it's got the cantrips, it's going to run smooth, and it's got no lack of whatever the hell else I forgot to say. So the kill conditions are going to be make your army, and then cast your Time Walk, and then, murder everybody. Or you're going to get your Blind Obedience in play. And this is a stacks piece that's going to slow your opponents down. It says artifacts and creatures your opponents control ETB tapped. But it also has extort, which means you can put 1 white mana. You can pay 1 white or black mana, and drain your opponent for every time you cast a spell. So while you're going through any of your loops, like when you're doing Dramatic Reversal Isochron Scepter combo, you can make infinite mana and then start paying that mana into the extort ability of Blind Obedience, because you are casting spells with Isochron Scepter. In fact, With all these combos, you're casting spells. With Retraction Helix, you're bouncing the Bauble, or the Crypt, or the Paradise Mantle, or the Basalt Monolith, or the Soul Ring. You're bouncing the thing and then you're recasting it. So you do get a cast trigger there. So you can use the Blind Obedience to burn everybody out, to drain the table out that way. There was another, I know there's another really good engine in the deck. I mean, if you want to drag your opponents into deep water, and you want to have a long war of attrition, where you're going to come out on top, this may well be the deck for you. What's the big engine I'm thinking of? Right there, Shorekai. Yes, Shorekai. So Shorekai is just a messed up value engine by itself, but it layers with the other stuff the deck is doing also. So if you just have Shorekai Genesis Engine in play, and you've got your commander in play, now instead of having to pay 6 mana to activate your commander's ability, you pay 1 mana, you tap Shorekai Genesis Engine, draw 2 cards, then discard a card, then create a 1/1 pilot token. That token is going to ETB and trigger Marneus, and you're going to draw another card. So with Shorekai in play with Marneus, 1 mana, tap, make a 1/1 pilot token, draw 2 cards, discard 1 card, and draw another card. So you're going to draw 2 cards, discard a card, draw a card. That's nuts, right? For 1 mana. Also, if you have your infinite Valley Flood Caller thing going, well, I guess a simpler example is if you've got your Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal going, even if somebody has murdered your commander twice and it's going to cost 1 billion mana, or there's a Drannith Magistrate in play or whatever, it's under some kind of Oblivion Ring type effect, you can still win the game with Isochron Scepter, Dramatic Reversal, and Shorekai. Shorekai will also make a big old, like, monstrous, nigh infinite armada. And you're still going to draw your deck, which means you are going to draw into your Time Walk, which means you'll be able to cast the Time Walk, the Temporal Trespass, so you don't have to pass the turn, and you can turn all your dudes sideways and clock everybody without having to make it a full turn rotation before it comes back to you. Other than that, the deck is mana ramp, tutors. God, we have so many tutors, right? Like Dimir Infiltrator, Tribute Mage, and Trophy Mage. These will find your, the Tribute Mage will find your Scepter. The Trophy Mage will find your Basalt Monolith. The Infiltrator, we already talked about. Savine's Reclamation will get those things back from your graveyard if you lose them. Dimir Machinations will transmute into Basalt Monolith, or Valley Flood Caller, or Narset, or Windfall. So if you've got any of those A's, you can find the B. Ring Sight, total underplayed card here. This should be on your radar. I think this is almost CDH viable. If it weren't in Dimir, this might see play in actual CDH. If this were in, like, I don't know, a color that doesn't have tutors. But in budget, tutors are kind of usually difficult to squeeze into the budget. Ring Sight says, the ring tempts you, then you search your library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature you control, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle. So that sounds like, if you just kind of glance at it, what it seems like is, well, if you have your commander in play, then you can search for any card that's in your color identity. And it is that, but it's not just that. You actually do not have to have your commander in play. And I don't mean because you're playing Lotho. I don't just mean that. You don't have to have a legendary creature in play to use Ring Sight. I mean, you do, but look up the ring tempts you. When you get tempted by the ring, the first thing you do is you choose one of your creatures to be a ring bearer. So Ring Sight only requires that you have any creature in play. And we've got 11 creatures plus our commander, plus we make a bunch of tokens. So even if you have nothing but like just a fairy artisan token, well, even let's just say you have nothing but a Shurikai Genesis Engine pilot token, you can still cast Ring Sight, and you choose your pilot to be the ring bearer. When you do that, it becomes a legendary creature, right? So as long as you have a creature, that's a bad example because that creature doesn't have color. At least I don't think it does. Regardless, as long as you have a creature in play that has a color, you can cast Ring Sight, and if you have your commander in play, then you can cast Ring Sight, and it's a 3-mana demonic tutor with upside. So that's kind of the deck, guys. Yeah, everything else is kind of standard stuff. The mana base, I think this is the right number of lands. It might be a little tiny bit heavy. Maybe we could cut to 33 lands. I've play tested it a bunch. If anything, sometimes it seems like it floods a little bit, but and we've got a lot of ways to sink our mana. And I didn't even get to a lot of the tutors. We've got Drift of Phantasms. We've got Muddle the Mixture. We've got the cantrips, which enough cantrips is kind of like having an extra tutor or two in the deck. We've got War of Invention that can find our Basalt Monolith or our Isochron Scepter or our Shurikai Genesis Engine. Yeah, I guess that's it, guys. Do we have time for? I don't think we have time for play testing. No, we don't. Should we do it anyway? Probably not. Am I gonna? Maybe. Discard. Alright, so we'll just take a look at a couple. Draw for turn. Play this. Probably we don't want to use the ritual to put a mana rock out yet. We'd go to our next turn. We'll go 1-2 for a rock. Then we go to our turn 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I actually could do 4, 5, 6, 4, 5. Marneus. Get our turn 3 Marneus. Now we've got. So we've got all these land drops, but we have, like a mana sink in the command zone and others in the deck, so maybe that's fine. So now we've got Ring Sight, we've got control, we've got some interaction, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can sit on this hand and hold up our Arcane Denial, and if somebody tries to win or do something that's really gonna put the screws to us, then we can take care of it. And if not, in the style of kind of Thrasios, we can end step before we untap. We can put 6 mana into this guy's ability. We can make 2 tokens, and they're kind of chunky tokens, and that triggers the other ability, and we draw a card. Then we go to our next turn, and what we would be doing here is we would just be trying to control the table, and we'd wait until we find the A, and then we'd tutor up the B, for instance. Yeah, I think I better cut it here, guys. I think we could go pretty deep into the gold fishing. I love to do this part. Well, that's us going to 6, so maybe that's the sign that it's time to cut the video off. So this would be our 6. We would probably pitch this guy. I can't help it. I can't stop myself. Oops, I didn't mean to draw twice. Oh, I went to turn 3 on. Okay, I guess that's going to do it, guys. All right, until next time, may all your outs be live, and all your women be liver, and your men be liver. Words to your mothers and your fathers and your daughters, too. Peace be with me, and also with you, but not you, because you suck. East side until the day that I die. Yeah, namaste, bitches.